Hello and welcome to No Filter Boxing as we break down the fight of the year, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. It's a monumental heavyweight clash, probably the biggest since 1999, Evander Holyfield versus Lennox Lewis. The winner will be crowned as the #1 heavyweight, but there are still question marks centred around that night of huge drama in Los Angeles.
There ain't never been a man that could better me.
All my life I had to prove people wrong. I've knocked out every fighter that I've faced.
I will stand and prove what I will do to this Indian.
He's gonna feel pain that he never felt before.
You ain't ready for me, and you never have been, you never will be.
I'm gonna knock out the Gypsy King as well, too. Timber!
The biggest fight of our generation between two undefeated giants.
Here we go. Taunting Wilder. Oh, good right hand. And Wilder felt that. Oh, he's gone down. He's gone down. And down he goes. Oh, my goodness. Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
The decision is a split decision draw.
It's the rematch we've all been wanting to see, and what a lineup we have today. I'm delighted to be joined by a man who was so instrumental in that great performance from Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder in the first fight. His close friend and former trainer, Ben Davison, joins us. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
Alongside Ben is a man who knows all about Deontay Wilder. He sparred him many, many times. He's the former cruiserweight and heavyweight champion of the world, David Haye. Welcome, David.
Thanks.
We also have another former world champion with us, Barry Jones, and he'll be demonstrating how the fight will be won and lost a little later on at the end of the show. Ben, I'll come to you first. It's a question that's got to be asked because many people want to know the answer to. You trained Tyson for the first contest, but you're not with him this time. Just give us a little bit of light on that, please.
Yeah, it's one of them. You know, sometimes these things happen in boxing, but neither of us are going to let it affect our friendship, the journey that we've been on. The success we had inside and most importantly outside the ring was fantastic, and you know, we remain friends, of course.
And you got the tactics spot on in the first one.
Yeah, you know, I've studied Wilder, you know, hours upon hours upon hours for a very long time now, so that played its part. But obviously Tyson's a phenomenal fighter as well.
And David, you've been involved in some massive fights, Klitschko, Valiev. It doesn't get bigger than this one, though.
This is it. This is the heavyweight championship of the world. You know, two people. Tyson, who held the lineal title, still holds the lineal title. You don't lose a title on a draw, so he still has that title. You've got a WBC champion. You know, most people believe this is the opportunity to see who is #1. Both fighters are undefeated. There are other champions. You got Anthony Joshua, who has the majority of the belts, but he has that blemish on his career. He has that one loss. Neither of these fighters have a loss, so I'm really looking forward to seeing who leaves the ring victorious. It's going to be explosive from the very first bell.
OK, guys, let's have a look at the first fight and some points, some positives and negatives of both boxers. And Ben, I believe you want to illustrate and show us what Tyson did well in terms of just controlling that distance.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what Tyson's done is he's jabbed at Wilder's glove, which is occupied Wilder's glove. And the more you keep this right hand occupied, the safer it's going to be for you because he's having to think defensive-minded. And his hand positioning, you know, Wilder will throw his right hand from anywhere between his nipple and his hip. But
if he's going to knock you out, he's going to
throw his right hand to try and take you out, which David will know. When you're going to throw a powerful right hand, you're not going to throw it from above your head. The main point here is Tyson taking away the distance from Wilder.
Maintaining the gap?
Maintaining the gap, keeping the distance, making him fall short, which then leads and forces, while Tyson's got space behind him, he can take the distance away. When he's in a position where he can't, Wilder falls in and smothers his own work because he's trying to punch through the target and close that gap, and he's starting to force things, keeping him turning as well. And the footwork of Tyson, obviously, as we know, as he done in Dusseldorf against Klitschko and he done in his first fight, is vital for him because although he's a man of that size, that reach and that ability, to have the feet and to be able to always be that step ahead is a massive factor for him in the fight.
You know, that is one of his massive weapons in this fight, and it's something he needs to continually work on and refine, and just because it's going to be very much needed in a rematch with Deontay Wilder, knowing he was out of range the first time. Wilder's feet are going to be that closer this time because he knows I don't want to be big swing missing like it was in the first fight. So as much as Wilder needs to get closer, Fury needs to be fully aware that's coming. So maybe go the opposite, maybe come closer. Maybe as Wilder's launching in, meet him in the middle to take that sweet spot away from him.
And Ben here, you just wanted to show us this day, just how he's avoiding shots as well, Tyson.
Yeah, see, Tyson makes it hard for people to be able to do so, but Wilder's a lot better at cutting off the ring than people think. And we knew that he was going to try and force Tyson round this way. And Tyson defensively, he had to get side on, get the shoulder round, use his height, and be able to avoid that right hand when forced to go that way.
Yes.
And he done that effectively. And as we see throughout the fight, he was taking the distance away and keeping Wilder turning, which was very important.
And this frustrated Wilder, didn't it? All throughout the fight.
Frustrated Wilder. But the other thing is what Tyson's just done there is he's physically controlled the distance. As heavy as Wilder had tried to commit, Tyson's used his lead arm to physically keep Wilder at bay.
Yeah.
If you do this stood still, the shot will come over or the shot will come underneath, which when it goes underneath will lead to the head. But he's mixed that in with taking the distance away with the feet, which was very successful throughout the night as well.
David, I mean, you know all about the right hand, the haymaker right hand. It's such a difficulty to get this right hand onto that chin, especially with a big obstacle.
It really is. When someone sort of posts that arm right out in front, instinctively it covers your chin. You can't see the chin. When my arm's in front, your chin's hidden behind your shoulder. And it's hard to launch a right hand because you just assume you're going to hit the back of his arm and miss the shot. If anything, you're going to look to go to the body or move the arm away or, you know, or just reset and wait until the arm moves in a different direction. Now he attacks again. He was riding shots quite well. I've never seen anyone ride shots with Wilder, but his timing's that good, he can literally take his chin away from the shot and take the sting out of it.
Your best asset defensively is your eyes, because if you can see it coming, you can defend it. If you can't see it, you can't defend it. And that distance that he was able to maintain allowed him to see what was coming.
Let's just watch this little feint before he jabs. It's very, very tricky. It's very, very simple, but there it is there. It's that little double feint. Yeah. It's a double feint. There it is again, and it just tricks Deontay Wilder. Again, he's flicking out his jab. I thought he jabbed very well.
I think it's because his arms are so long and he's not trying to knock you out with a jab. He's just happy if he touches you in the face because that knocks you off balance, it messes up your rhythm, it unsettles your flow and you have to reset afterwards. And he's become a master of doing it, become a master of flicking that. It's a flicky jab, but you don't want it in the face when an 18-stone man's flicking you in the face with those 10-ounce gloves on. You can feel his knuckles in the face. It might not look devastating, but take 16, 17 of those around, it starts marking your face up.
100%, and for me, the important thing was Tyson being a big man when he was throwing the jab like David's saying, he wasn't stepping into it. If I'm stepping into it, Wilder's just got to time him with a right hand. I'm not going to give away a jab to take a right hand, especially off of this man. He boxed around Wilder. He threw the jab while circling Wilder, which is important because if he's trying to punch through the target, I'm giving an opportunity to take one back. And the double feints, as well as it makes you make a decision. If you don't respect it, I'll make you pay for it. Yeah. And if you do respect it, it's opened up the distance. So it worked in different ways for Tyson as well.
What I also thought he did well, because I believe his power is underestimated. I think Tyson Fury has got decent power. And he showed it a couple of times here with a couple of great 1-2s, straight 1-2s, basic punches, but it kept this man at bay. Let's have a look at here. There's a good right hand there going through. And let's have a look at this one here now.
An interesting point is when you throw this at Wilder, he always comes back with a left hook.
Yeah.
I believe, and the fight that I studied to set this game plan out was actually Sugar Ray Leonard versus Thomas Hearns. I see it as a similar clash of styles.
Right. OK, that's interesting.
And the shot that actually was the beginning of the end for Hearn was sort of a 1-2, and he come up with sort of a lifting hybrid between a hook and an uppercut, like a lifting left hook. And when Wilder snatches at his left hook, the right hand comes away. I do believe that that's a shot that Tyson can definitely have success with.
Let's have a look at it here again.
Snatching
good
left hook
1-2,
again,
but he still stays at distance. Look, then he's back out there. Good boxing.
His body weight comes through the shot as well. He rotates all the way through it. It's the opposite to what he does with his jab.
Yeah.
He's actually putting all of his body mass, so he doesn't have to load up with it because he's such a big man anyway, with long levers. Any big man that size turns through with a right hand. No, it's not like he's brought it from here and it's a big snapping shot. Yeah. He goes all the way through it. He's nice and relaxed with his shot as well. Relaxed. Doesn't take that much energy from him. He's also, and if he misses the shot, his head's off the line and he's not in that much of a danger zone.
Now, the perfect boxer has never been born. We've all got faults. I think occasionally he can be a little bit vulnerable. In this contest, I thought the movement was key, but when he held his feet occasionally, he got caught with a couple of shots. Let's have a look here. I'll just stop it there. That's just when his feet come a little bit square, he stays in the corner, he's held his feet, he's invited pressure. He gets away with it here, actually, because he goes off to the side, if we just carry it on. But still, we shouldn't be in that position, so he's just got to watch it. He has to be switched on every second of every round. Again here, backed up into the corner. This is when he actually gets put down. So his feet are very, very stable. He gets in the corner. He doesn't go to the left. Then he gets clipped with a couple of shots. One was at the back of the head, we know. But again, the vulnerability for me was he's held his feet a little bit too long, Ben, in that corner there. Maybe he should have been going off that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's OK doing this, and he sits underneath the right hand here, but for me, something I actually asked him to do was when he changed his height, he had to smother.
Get closer to
him. He had to smother Wilder, because then I'm nullifying him from throwing punches. There's two ways to not get hit: too far away or too close.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I actually watched David versus Mormek the other day, and you done it to Mormek a lot, because he was pressure, but as soon as David smothered him, you can't throw your shots. I'm going to walk you back, buy myself space behind me, so that I have space to work with again.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be a massive, massive adaptation for Tyson going into the rematch.
Yeah. But let's have a look at the 12th round, because this was the classic round, wasn't it? It was unbelievable. So here again, he's actually caught him with a good one too there, Ben.
Yeah, you know, I do believe that Tyson, in the back of his mind, was thinking he didn't trust the judges.
Yeah.
And I've always said, in life, you can't worry about what you can't control.
Yeah.
The judges was out of our hands, you know. He had to just focus on what he needed to do. Obviously, you know, I'd said to him that make it boring, still, you know, just see the round out. That's all he had to do in my eyes to win the fight. The judges, you can't focus on that.
This is probably one of the rare occasions in this fight where Wilder gets the timing and the distance bang on.
It's very similar to the first knock. It's very similar to the first knockdown, where, as Ben said, he didn't either smother it or get away from it. He just bent his knees. Maybe that was some fatigue from a long, grueling 12-round fight. But how he got up from that, I'll never know. I don't know any other human being that could get up from that shot. But in the 12th round, after at such a high pace, after getting knocked down.
No one could believe it, could they?
With two shots, it wasn't one shot, it was one shot, and as he was on the way down anyway, he caught him on the way down, just for good measure. And most referees would have stopped the fight immediately, as there would have been no chance of him getting up, talking to any expert, but somehow he defied the experts once
what
again.
it does illustrate also, you've got to be switched on against that guy every second of every round.
Naturally, you know, me, Tyson and Billy Joe was talking the other day, and, you know, like Billy Joe said to him, the fact that that's happened, what stands out for me, which is significant for me, is when Tyson did get knocked down, what happened after? He got back up and dominated. So for me, it says that when he switched back on and realised actually the man's still a threat, Tyson could dominate. He's got to remain with that concentration throughout. And I think that having sort of paid the price, although, you know, he still won the fight, he'll know that going into the rematch that I can't make that same mistake.
Well, that's Tyson Fury. And many boxing fans thought that Tyson did enough to win the first contest, me included. But he will know deep down he's got to go one better on February the 22nd to become a two-time heavyweight champion of the world.
If I do the shoulder roll and I stay here, there's lots of opportunities to hit me. Or you can clip on the top of the head. But if I'm doing the shoulder roll and I sit tall, and now you throw a right hand, I'm sitting well away from it. Even if you bowl it over, try and bowl it over. Because I'm sitting back, I'm coming away from it, everything's covered. And even if you do, it slides up, it's sliding away from my head because of the angle.
This time they're getting a fighter that's match fit and a fighter that's been active for a few years, rather than coming back after all the problems. You'll see a much better, mentally, physically, boxer than I was before. My eyes have been really opened in this training with Sugar Hill. Everything's different and I feel like I'm learning again. Before we was polishing stuff that I did good and it was a winning formula, but now we're working on stuff that I don't do so well. Everything's got to change. So that's what I'm doing. I'm willing to sacrifice everything for the victory. That's how much it means. He really is going to fight the Gypsy King.
It's such an exciting prospect, and Barry Jones has now joined Ben in the ring to demonstrate what Tyson Fury has got to do to win this contest.
Right there, Ben, you're the perfect man for the job. So Tyson, I thought he was flawless, literally flawless in the first fight. he's going to have a different Wilder now. The Wilder who knows what he's going to come up against. What changes would you like to see from Fury? What changes do you think he'll implement?
Yeah, there's got to be adaptations, you know. The more he can occupy Wilder's right hand, so Wilder likes to have his right hand here when he's going to throw. He half has it already cocked, it's down almost by his waist, so that if I can just touch that glove, or even if I'm not committing with it, automatically you've now got to defend with that glove, and it becomes high. You're not going to throw a big, strong right hand from here. So just by occupying it, changing it, showing a left hook, coming through the middle, it's now occupied.
Just always keep it up, always keep it up. So it's uncocked, always.
It's uncocked. He's defensively occupying that right hand. That's going to could be a big factor in the fight. And a big factor in any fight is positioning, where the fight takes place.
Yeah.
The fight's got to take place in the middle of the ring where Tyson can take the distance away from Wilder.
Now, that makes sense, but Tyson does quite often volunteer the space. He likes to go back against the ropes. Because he's the taller guy, he likes to sit back in the corners, and he likes to do this. But against Wilder, surely that's the wrong move?
Yeah, and he didn't do that too much in that fight because against somebody shorter, Tyson can sit here, he can hit you, and you can't hit him, and he can touch, and he won't never throw more than 2 or 3 shots from the ropes, and then he can turn off and tie you up when he wants to. But against Wilder, you know, obviously, as he's taking distance, Wilder's going to keep trying to press and cutting the ring off. A big factor for me is when Tyson was on Wilder through the right hand and he was throwing it high, Tyson was coming underneath it, but then he was missing the left foot by sitting back out, but then there's an opportunity for another shot. If he can nullify Wilder's attack to 1 or 2 shots when he throws the right hand, if he can sit underneath it and now smother, tie him walking back, now I've got space to play with again. And that could be a huge factor in the fight. But it's using an entry. Roberto Duran was fantastic at it. He'd use your punch as an entry.
Okay,
but
yeah, so if I swing...
Yeah, he'd use that to then, boom, or in Tyson's case, he needs to sit underneath here. But Wilder doesn't throw a right hand on his own. No. If you watch them shots back or watch his highlight reel, it's
everything comes back with a hook.
Yeah, but it always starts with that. Every time, even if he's not throwing it. Okay. If he uses that every time. If Tyson can defend this by here, underneath, now smother, or when he throws it, throw the jab, 1, 2. There, underneath the right hand to then smother, or he can go straight underneath the jab, actually go to the attack, and walks in back, and now I've got space to play with. But Tyson's got the reach where if he does walk in, Tyson can, and that's the ability that Tyson's got, he can punch and move at the same time, which people don't like to teach that. People teach jab, 1, 2, but Tyson can step and jab.
Always like with the front foot.
And together, he was circling with the jab. So rather than going jab, out, step across, he'll walk and jab at the same time, feint, and then step off, reset, and constantly keeping Wilder turning.
Inevitably, at some point, he's going to be under pressure. Yeah. He's going to get caught at one point in the fight. Not saying he's going to get knocked down or hurt, but when he does get caught, or does get under pressure, or just gets put on the ropes, the exits, because I noticed that pivot on the front foot. When and you said he bruised at a shoulder, but it's actually when he turns with the foot as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And it's an important part, and you see a lot of young kids wanting to do the Floyd Mayweather shoulder roll. If I do the shoulder roll and I stay here, there's lots of opportunities to hit
still
me.
There,
or you can clip on the top of the head. But if I'm doing the shoulder roll and I sit tall, and now you throw a right hand, I'm sitting well away from it. Even if you bowl it over, try and bowl it over. Because I'm sitting back, I'm coming away from it, everything's covered. And even if you do, it slides up, it's sliding away from my head because of the angle.
So that movement there is just as important as that, is it?
He can use that, but we're talking, like we was talking about, a 3-minute round. If I can nullify you and come into this position, walk you back, the ref says break, the ref says break, the ref says break, you grab hold of the rope, the ref says break, then you break. You turn a 3-minute round into a 2-minute round. Nullifying the engagements. And like David said, when somebody holds that left hand out and holds it as a post, straight away, automatically, you think, I can't throw my right hand. Straight away, because you know the line of your right hand isn't there. So even, and the first punch that you think of is to go here. So even if Tyson's just standing still, but with that there, it automatically takes away his right hand. And by taking this away, there's a few ways he can do it. Like I said, occupying this glove where he's got to focus on it being defensive, giving him a different poise and a different shape where he can only throw to the body.
So you actually give him a target that hits?
Give him the target. I can make I can make you throw a punch that I've made you throw that punch. I know you're going to go to my body just by poison. If I stand like this, what are you going to do straight away? I've dictated to you what you throw.
So when you're doing that, you're almost automatically putting that back leg back.
You already know. Once you commit, I can step back.
Ben, can I just ask a question? We've heard from the Fury camp. Fury wants to try and knock Wilder out this time. Does that make him more vulnerable?
Yeah, potentially. I can't say that. But there's a difference between trying to knock somebody out and being the aggressor.
Yeah, OK.
You can knock somebody out by being on the back foot and bringing somebody onto the shot. Something for me that I saw that is definitely an opportunity to exploit is when Wilder goes into the full guard and Tyson throws the 1-2, Wilder snatches back with a left hook. But it's very high. If Tyson can throw the 1-2, sit and come up with almost a lifting left hook, because every time Wilder throws this left hook, this comes here. And it leaves a massive gap here. Okay. Now, so as Tyson throws that and he sits, half a second pause, just in case something comes up and come up with a lifting left hook in the way Sugar Ray Leonard did against Thomas Hearns. I believe a shot like that will be something that could potentially exploit. But to throw the punches in a combination, I wouldn't like to see, because then you're opening to exchange left hooks. So you don't want to see that. No. I wouldn't want to see that. I'd like to see a 1-2 and then a consecutive punch, which is separate. It's almost like a second phase. So he has his 1-2, a defensive movement, and then his attack. So he's not exchanging left hooks with Wilder.
Even though Wilder has to box better than he did the first time, trying to outbox Tyson Fury is just asking for a loss. And for me, for Fury, even though he might be able to stop Wilder, to try and go in there to knock him out, to punch with a puncher, the last you want to do, especially Wilder, because whether the height difference, the reach and the leverage he has, the reach he has is so long. And more importantly, he keeps that power for 12 rounds, which is, it's not unheard of, but it's very, very rare that he can have that power, the same power from the first round to the 12th round, which makes him one of the most dangerous heavyweights there's been. I guess, really, you're saying, in a nutshell, is for Fury to win again, he has to dictate the pace. I mean, to slow it down and quicken it up, but more importantly, maintain the distance and be in control of the distance of the two fighters.
And also, wind down the clock.
Fascinating insight, fellas. Thanks a lot. Well, that's how we see Tyson Fury winning the fight. After the break, we'll turn our attention to the defending champion, Deontay Wilder. Despite question marks over his ability, he remains the biggest puncher in world boxing and will be looking for knockout number 42 on February the 22nd.
Please welcome the hard-hitting, reigning and defending, undefeated WBC heavyweight champion of the world, introducing the bronze bomber, Deontay Wilder.
We all know what a devastating puncher Deontay Wilder is, but he has got his faults, and I've spotted a couple that I'd like to talk with you. For a start off, I think Wilder sometimes starts his attacks from too far away. So if we have a look here, there's no way he'll land this right hand from where he's launching it from. Here, look, so there's a big distance, there's a big gap between himself. We've just seen the line there between himself and Tyson, but look where he's launching the attack from, and he's trying to land a right hand. There's just no way you're going to hit a man with his skills from launching it from that distance. Do you agree?
Wilder hadn't had much success with the jab throughout the fight. He had it occasionally with the jab to the body, which is a great
Should be using the jab much more.
He should have been, but Fury can out-jab you. If you're going to go jab to jab, jab for jab with Fury, you're going to have a hard night. And Wilder, I believe in this first fight, went in there as a total destruction mission. I'm sure he would have bet every penny he's ever earned that it will knock him out in the first 6 rounds. Going on the performances from Tyson's
so look again here.
Fights.
It looks like it's landed, but it doesn't actually. No. He's launching it from too far out. He actually misses the target here. He's just skimming the target, but you know yourself.
He's missing the target, and but Fury was moving. If Fury was standing still, he would have been sleeping then. It's easy. Sometimes it's easy. It looks as though Wilder's in this fight particularly, it looked like Wilder was just throwing from way out of range. He had no success with his jab, he had no success getting into range because he just got tied up. So he was out of options, so he thought, I've just got to swing for the fences and hopefully something lands. And at one stage it did land.
If we look at the gap in his feet. His feet are what I tend to find is boxers with a large stance, wide stances, that this punch has to travel a little bit further to the target. It's going to fall short. Let's have a look at it here. There again. See, it's missing the target, but that's mainly, I think, because of the wide stance. Obviously, Fury's moving back as well. I understand your point. I think he should have been jabbing a lot more, setting up these attacks with the right hand with this jab. This is not bad. This is better. That's what he should have been doing before he then launches the right hand. Watch him here. Good jab and a 1-2 coming up. That's a little bit better. He's getting the distance right. But for me, it was all too far away, too wide a stance.
It was all rushed, and I don't believe his mindset going into this fight was about popping him with jabs and setting up. He doesn't believe he needs to set up attacks. He's of the mindset, I just need to land one punch to win this fight. You saw it in his last fight against Louis Ortiz.
That's a big gamble, though, David, isn't it?
It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that's never not worked. Yeah. It's been 100%. He's got one of the best records ever. All of a sudden, is he now going to change his style to start trying to win those rounds? Does he believe Fury can get to that final belt? I don't think he does, but I think he will box a lot more strategically this time. First time round, it was just... He was able to get a draw with no game plan whatsoever.
The wide base that you just mentioned there was something that I recognised and why I knew Tyson taking the distance would work, because when you've got a wide base, you're set up to load up with shots.
You need your opponent in front of you.
And with a wide base, you can only ever step in so far. Yeah. So I knew that taking the distance away would work, but for you to be able to stay in distance against and be... Because you have to effectively be closer to Tyson than his punching distance to be able to land a shot on him, because he's got a longer reach. But to do that, you have to have some lateral movement. You have to be able to catch and counter. And I don't think Wilder's got the ability to go slip, slip, counter. So, you know, he's always relied on... He's a big man himself, and he's always had that reach to be able to hit you and not be able to be hit back at that distance. He hasn't had to set shots up. And do you know why? Because...
They're coming to him?
A lot of this is people coming to him.
Yes.
They're often the aggressor.
Yes.
They're often the aggressor, and people say Wilder can't box on the back foot. Well, watch this and you'll beg to differ. A lot of people have watched Wilder's last 2 fights, his last 3 fights.
This was against Smilka, wasn't it? The Polish boxer.
Tough man, this guy.
Tough man.
He was
What's a right hand,
He was doing quite well. He was doing quite well in the fight up until this point.
And got greedy.
But he tried too hard.
Going forward, and your point is he's on the back foot and then he brings him onto it, yeah?
I've got a fantastic point here. Wilder's hand positioning, when he's on the back foot and he's got this posture, he's dangerous. If you can occupy him with feints and jabbing his gloves and keeping him occupied, keeping him defensive-minded, where he goes into a full guard, it's a safer attack. But when he's in this posture, he's dangerous. And the other thing is, if you notice Luis Ortiz's front foot and the timing, if you just touch this one slowly, of when he lifts this foot up and Wilder shoots his shot, the moment he lifts his front foot up to step in, Wilder fires. And this is a common factor in Wilder knockouts. The moment you step your front foot to him, he commits. And he knows he's quicker with a longer reach and he will hit the target. The moment you step towards him, he'll meet you.
Do you think that's an instinctive thing that he does, or he's looking for that?
I don't know if he consciously does it or unconsciously, subconsciously does it, but he done it with Brazil. The moment Brazil lifted his front foot up and stepped towards him, he threw and nailed him. The moment Stiverne lifted his front foot up, he nailed him. And the same with Ortiz here, the same with Spilka before. And in the next clip, when you see Ortiz stepping with a double jab, trying to push Wilder back, as people say Wilder can't box on the back foot, there's not being able to box on the back foot for you.
Catches him with that right hand and then just turns him.
And if you notice in all the clips, his posture is the same. He slightly sits over, his back leg's bent, and his right hand is in between his nipple and his hip.
That's why Tyson has so much success, because where other fighters step in with their shots, you don't know what... Tyson, he does that twice, and Wilder would let his shot go. He realises the first one wasn't coming, and it goes from here to defend.
Exactly.
He puts his hand in, so you can't do anything from there. So he forces him from that position to a defensive position, which keeps you in a safer place.
But a devastating finisher.
A devastating finisher if you give him the opportunity, yeah.
You'd have been proud of that right hand, Dave, wouldn't you? You could hit.
Right down the pipe, that is. There's not much you can do with that. And as I said, finishing, he throws the kitchen sink at you, and he can continue doing it. One thing I've always been impressed with Wilder was his fitness and the fact that he can throw concussive punches throughout the... You know, normally people's punch power diminishes as the fight goes on, but for some reason he's able to conjure up just ridiculous knockout punch power throughout the whole fight.
And we're just going to see the last round of the Tyson Fury fight. What was going through your mind here, Dave?
Well, there's a point here, and you know, it was something that I wasn't gonna mention, but I know that Tyson's aware of it because we spoke about it before the fight, and it's something that I know Wilder's team is aware of because it's something they've worked on. But fighters have habits and tendencies, and that's what you look for as a trainee. And if you do something too often or for too long at top level, you'll get made to pay for it. And what Wilder does is he'll bounce on the spot, and then he'll not back and forward, he'll bounce on the spot. And it's a mental reset. And something that Tyson does, when Tyson touches his face and wipes his nose, I know that Wilder's team worked on it, on when to throw. Something happened at the end of the 8th round when Tyson got hit with a right hand on the top of the head. He wiped his nose, touched his face, a little bit of a reset. And this is what he actually did in the 12th round. And that's why, you know, when there was space behind Tyson to step into, to take the distance away, he didn't do it. And I believe that it was just a single lack in concentration because of that habit. But it's something to be aware of, you know. So while he's training, if he does it, add a step on it, add a little a reset on it where he moves his feet, change his position, and then it takes that away. But it's something that Wilder's team was aware of and worked on.
This is what is quite a funny thing for me. Just watch his face here. Watch his eyes change when he realises
he thinks the fight's completely over. Normally, when he hits people, they stay hit. He sees it down, he starts laughing. I can't believe this guy's getting back up. He's thinking, oh, God.
Well, who could?
Yeah, yeah. See,
well, he thinks the fight's over. As he's going back there, you know, he's showboating, but he thinks the fight's over. He's won. And then he sees Tyson get up. Dave, you've sparred Deontay Wilder. How hard does he hit? Because you were a big puncher. How hard does he hit?
I truly think he's the hardest punching heavyweight ever. Sounds like an exaggeration. I got hit by Wilder in sparring, and I've been hit by Vladimir Klitschko on the chin with 10-ounce gloves. There was more effect from Wilder hitting me on the top of the head with 18-ounce gloves on, me wearing a head guard, and it wasn't even clean, it was just glancing. I felt that more. But after that, I remember thinking, after the first time I sparred him, I was like, this guy's going to do something. This guy, it was wild, it was all over the place, but the power.
Well, there you have it. So if Deontay Wilder is to produce that 40-second knockout of his career, he's going to have to make sure that Tyson Fury doesn't get off that canvas. Can he do it?
He did something I've never seen. He walked out, he sort of jumped here, jumped back, and I was like, what was that? Does he practice that? Was that just something from a basketball game he had once? I don't know. How do you prepare for it? He was like 6 foot, he did. It was insane. And then throw his shot.
Wilder, I'm coming for you, soccer. 2 rounds. Lost the fight fair and square, he will lose the fight again. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give him a boxing lesson, and I'm going to knock him out. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Everything that he wants to do, I'm going to diffuse it.
Let's have a slugfest. Best man stands up, loser goes down.
I knock guys out. Every guy that I faced, I put him down. I told Fury 2 years ago that I was going to baptize him, and I did just that. You know, rising up is part of the baptism. I told her he was going to go timber, and he did just that.
What's going to happen on that night is I'm going to get what I won last time. I'm going to get that green belt. I'm also going to get the ring magazine, and I'm also going to keep my lineal championship. And if he wants to rematch again, no problem. Beat him on once, you beat him again, you definitely beat him 3 times in a row. Not a bother.
Barry is now joined by David, and they're going to demonstrate what Deontay Wilder has got to do to win this fight.
Right, Dave.
Yep.
Luckily, we found a massive punching heavyweight world champion to talk us through it. Deontay Wilder.
Yes.
So he has the biggest room for improvement in this fight as Fury. What would you like to see the changes that he would make?
I think the first fight, Deontay Wilder entered the ring with supreme confidence that no matter what game plan he implemented, he was going to win the fight. He didn't go in there with the respect that was required against a master boxer. Tyson Fury is a master boxer. I don't believe he respected that boxing ability that Tyson Fury had. So he went in there to think, I'm just going to knock this guy out. And he was set. He wasn't setting anything up. He was throwing knockout punches from the wrong position. I don't believe he believed he needed to be in the right position. He didn't believe he needed to set up any attacks. He thought in 12 rounds, 36 minutes, at some stage, he's going to connect and he's going to KO.
So what are the right positions? I'm Fury now, and I'm very mobile. I'm feinting, I'm moving.
The jab to the body, for me, was the best thing that I saw from Deontay Wilder. When he jabbed to the head, it wasn't really working that much because Tyson Fury had his arm out here and he was flicking. He does this thing where he sort of moves to one side. He needs to jab down to the body to push, exactly, as you did, you move back, you push back. Get him back to the ropes on his own terms.
And then steal the space, and then get the pressure.
And also, I think the second biggest thing for him is feints. Deontay Wilder threw as few feints as I've ever seen in any of his fights. I don't know what it was, maybe it was... I've had situations where I've gone into fights fighting someone and I didn't believe I needed to set up my attacks. I thought I was good enough, My timing was good enough. I punch hard enough to connect. And whenever you have that mindset, for some reason, you go way down in level. So you need to set your attacks up. As you saw, Tyson Fury has set patterns of movement. He does this thing where he leans here and leans down. He does it 9 times out of 10 when you throw a 1-2 at him. So he leans away from the first jab here, expecting this, and he drops it down. That's one of his go-to moves, and it's kept him safe. It's kept him unbeaten. So if someone does that exclusively when you throw a 1-2, show him the 1-2 first. He goes down into that position, you can then take your time and then shoot your right hand over the top. Or the third shot of the combination, after the first 2 feints, then put the meat on the jab.
So the one
jab, because he's going to be ducking into your shot to meet him in the middle and then throw shots. Very rarely did he show a shot and then shoot and land a solid shot to the chest or the stomach.
I was going to say that because Fury is such a mover, and even though you say Wilder has good legs and nice fast feet.
They're disorganised.
Yeah, he
crosses his feet a lot, but
he didn't cut them. He'd send the following round.
You can't judge Deontay Wilder by any other boxer. It's like trying to. I always used to hear people say Michael Johnson, when he first came out into the scene, he's got a terrible style. He runs like that, and all these coaches were trying to correct him. Well, he won Olympics how many times? Won the World Championships. Some people's styles just isn't made from the playbook. The moment you correct his style is the moment he loses his edge. It's very difficult to prepare to fight someone who has a completely unorthodox style, who crosses their feet. He'll throw a right hook here, and he'll be in a position, and he'll throw a left uppercut harder than anyone else can throw a left uppercut. So how often are you in this position if you're not prepared to fight a southpaw? He does so many unorthodox, disorganised things, the same way as Fury does. They're both very disorganised and unconventional, and it's near impossible to get the sparring for each other.
David, can I ask a question? The limited success I thought that Wilder had in the last contest was when he got, Tyson, when he knocked him down the first time, got him into the corners, got him to hold his feet. How does he back him up onto the ropes and into the corners?
He does it with feints and work into his body. When he goes to the head, he falls too short. But when you go to the body, you've got to drop your legs lower. Right. It keeps your centre of gravity a little bit better, and it's hard to fall off balance double jabbing someone to the body, but if you throw a double jab to the head, you kind of lean in trying to reach him for this shot. So if he needs to hold his weight down lower and shoot his shots to the body, that will force Tyson Fury back.
Because for me, he's going to be out box barrier for me in the centre of the ring, so he's got to get him back to the ropes.
So I'm Fury here now, I'm bouncing around you. And you get me to the ropes.
Need to hold it down here.
That keeps me tall as well, doesn't it?
Fury usually leans away from it. If you show him some aggression, his arm comes out and he leans away and goes back straight usually time, or he circles out to his left. I don't know how he does it. He somehow avoids the big right hooks over the top. Maybe Deontay Wilder's going to work on, I don't know, as Fury's moving to the side, throwing a wider hook, but he needs to focus on his
just to stop me from exiting.
To stop it in there, or maybe coming across. But it's difficult to tell Deontay Wilder to do a certain thing in the fight because he's so instinctive. You know, look at when he had Bermain Severn hurt after the first knockdown. He did something I've never seen. He walked out, he sort of jumped here, jumped back, and I was like, what was that? Does he practice that? Was that just something from a basketball game he had once? I don't know. How do you prepare for it? And he's so quick on his feet. If you watch that movement that he did, who can walk up to a former heavyweight champion and literally just jump here, jump back? It was about 6 foot he did. It was insane. And then throw his shot. If we're going to listen to the corner, the new corner, who believed Tyson Fury was too light for that fight against Deontay Wilder, I solely disagree with that being the case. I believe he was at a good weight there. I believe he showed he had a good weight because he won the fight on the majority. Other than the judges, most people felt Tyson Fury won that fight with the game plan, with the fitness, with everything he brought to the table. If he adds on an additional 10 kilograms or whatever he's going to put on, I believe that will hinder his performance and mean he can't move out of range as quick as he did in the first fight. And I believe he needs to be significantly better in the rematch than he was in the first fight. Anything remotely the same as he did in the first fight isn't enough to beat a new and improved Deontay Wilder. That's the thing, he doesn't play the game that everyone else does. I'm to win these rounds. He doesn't care. He wants to knock you out. He's only going for the knockout.
But to lose so many rounds, to gamble on you catching him with that perfect shot, seems naive.
Sounds crazy.
So you're
Sounds
literally saying
absolutely crazy.
it don't matter if it takes you 8 rounds, 10 rounds, 11 3/4 rounds. You just look and just keep walking.
I'd say for the first 6 rounds, Wilder is going to be as patient as he was in the first fight with Ortiz. If he re-watches that fight thing, he'd have watched the first fight and thought, what am I doing? I'm throwing shots, I'm well out of range. By the time I finally did catch him, there wasn't much in the shot because I'd wasted everything, missing early. He's not going to make that same mistake again. He's going to try to chip away with body shots, jabs, you know, and wait for the shot, feint, get him to go do this. And when the final shot lands...
It seems to me then, like, it's a confidence bordering on arrogance.
Yeah.
You literally think that it doesn't matter if I'm 11 rounds down.
Doesn't matter.
I'm going to catch you now.
He's that hard a hitter.
You can call it confidence or arrogance, or it's what I would call offence disguise. Like we was talking about Tyson going body. But like we just saw on the video there, a lot of Wilder's knockouts is actually on the back foot.
Yeah.
And if Tyson now gets greedy offensively, when Wilder's on the back foot, that's something that you have to be aware of because he times it. As people step in, he'll meet you with the shot.
We're literally sort of edging our bets that Tyson is going to box the similar fight, the smarter fight, I would think, that he did the last time, and be on the move, constantly on the move. That's what we thought.
And it's right to a certain degree that there's times where Tyson could have put his foot on the gas a little bit more. Now, I, as a coach with a game plan, had to be aware of he's not done elite level championship rounds for a long time, so I have to implement that into a game plan and be aware of that. But something that is important for me that I want Tyson to be aware of, obviously, is, like we were talking about, is Wilder's posture when he's actually on the back foot. If Wilder has this posture with his right hand in between his chest and his hip, you have to be careful because he will throw.
And he'll coming at you.
Exactly, and he'll meet you with it, and he's a very, very fast puncher. But if you can occupy him like Tyson did with the feints and keep this lead hand occupied, like we were saying, by jabbing at his glove or throwing a jab that's purposely thrown short or feinting a left hook and showing him it, it's going to make this right hand up here. Once he gives you this look, it's OK to go.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something to be wary of that Wilder might play possum, bring him on towards to try and time something. So you have to be aware of all scenarios. And at the end of the day, it's heavyweight boxing, anything can happen.
Okay. The one thing Wilder didn't do in that first fight that he usually does a lot more is jab to the body and feint. Jabbing to the body and feint, uncharacteristically didn't do that in the first fight, and I believe that will be something that Tyson will need to work on, making sure as sparring partners do to him to make sure that he doesn't do this same that. It worked in the first fight. To a degree, he got caught a couple of times when he got a bit tired.
That's why the smother's got to be important.
Exactly. So if he is gonna do here, he's got to go back and drop down underneath and turn him, and you know, there's loads of little things that I'm sure his team are going to work on all of that stuff.
Okay, and guys, it's crunch time and it's prediction time. Barry, you can go first.
I think it's a closer fight than I do think. I thought before I was talking to these two guys that Wilder would be a bit more active, but I still think that Fury, if he's as fit and as sharp as he was the first time, or more so, that he will get the win. So I'm edging for a Fury.
David?
I hate doing these prediction things, but...
It's not personal, David.
I know it's not personal. But it's the same thing as when... I think the first fight we saw Tyson Fury at his best, and we saw Wilder not at his best at all. I thought that was the best performance I've ever seen Tyson Fury have, and I thought that was the worst performance I've ever seen Deontay Wilder have. Since that point, Tyson Fury has now changed his coach. I know that what you did with Tyson Fury allowed him to have his greatest ever performance. So now the fact that he's changed his coach so close to the most important fight against a guy that was having his worst night last time round, I have to go towards Deontay Wilder for a stoppage.
So that's points for Fury, Wilder by stoppage. Ben?
Yeah, I actually think that the first fight for Wilder was the worst thing that could have happened for him, because I think that Tyson now will have respect for him for 12 rounds. I think that he would have learnt from that first fight, and I think that he'll know I can't switch off. And what I take from that first fight is when Tyson did get knocked down, he got up and dominated. That said to me that when he switched back on and gained respect for Wilder again, he he dominated. It was almost like it was a choice. And like you said, you know, there was rounds that went by where Wilder just couldn't land. Then he found one. And I think that Tyson now knows that I have to respect that right hand for 12 rounds, no matter what. And if he can just take that and add that into his performance in the next fight, I believe that he wins.
You know it's a 50-50 fight in many ways when you can argue with yourself.
Yeah. As you were saying what you were saying about those middle rounds where he was nicking it up there, I was like thinking, yeah, he could just keep nicking them.
Yeah.
How about if he just does that for the rounds? Then I was thinking, oh, that's because Wilder was allowing him to...
And the same with you guys. When I'm talking about, you know, you have to win the round, you're talking about, no, with heavyweight boxing, when you can punch, you got to just, like, you got to believe in yourself and, you know, don't worry about the points, worry about the end game.
One thing I will say is Wilder's a better boxer than what people think.
Yeah, he
is.
He's a better boxer than what people
when
think.
He uses that jab.
He's got a phenomenal jab.
He's very, very heavy-handed, underrated jab. People only see the windmilling after someone's hurt. Very rarely does he windmill when someone's in front of him waiting to counter him.
And people have this thing, you'll know more than anyone, that people say he can only punch with the right hand, but he can punch with his jab, he can punch with a slap, he can punch with a backhand, you know what I mean? He's heavy-handed all round.
2 for Tyson, got 1 for Wilder. I'm actually going for Tyson. I think it'll be more of the same. I think he'll outbox him, and I think it will be a case of Deontay Wilder being very frustrated. And for me, it could be a late stoppage for Tyson Fury. So I'm going for Tyson as well. It's been fascinating listening to you insights. It really has. Very educational, actually, and hopefully for our viewers. But thanks very much indeed, lads. It's been great. Well, that's the way we see it. One thing's for certain, it's going to be a very special night on February the 22nd in Las Vegas. It's a heavyweight title fight for the ages. 2 of the best going toe-to-toe again for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. Don't miss it.
Taunting Wilder. Oh, good right hand. And Wilder felt that. Oh, he's gone down. He's gone down. And down he goes. Oh, my goodness. Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
The decision is a split decision draw.